Hey, after recording that last video on fear, I felt like there was some things that I left out. I'd like to finish a couple thoughts with you. Some of the equipment, I just want to start with some of that. So last time I showed you some stoppers, nuts, those metal devices that look like little wedges. This is called a camming device. As you can see here, we can pull uh, pull that down and it retracts these little cams. So it's a cam or a friend, some people call them. So as you continue to go up the climb, you would hook this into a crack, hopefully find a crack that's constricting like that. You put this in, you retract it. Maybe the most you want to retract it is about 60%, so that when the next person comes up, they can retract it a little bit further and take it out of the crack. Usually these are pretty bomb proof. You feel pretty good when you place one of these good. So same thing, the leader goes up, um, puts one of these in and then clips it to the rope and then continues going up. So that's called lead climbing. And then the other way that we feel more comfortable, so leader would go up, get to the top of the climb and clip into two anchors at the top. And then the leader's over here, the layer still on this side of the rope, would lower him down back to the ground. And then the next person going up would take out, so all of the equipment that got put in on this side of the rope. So the climber, the new climber would be on this side, the layer would switch over here. As you can see, as the climber progresses up the climb, there's no chance for really any injury or any problem because as they progress, they just pull that up. So if I'm on this side, you see just there's no really room or worry about falling. So usually what we would do as leaders of a climb, we would always top rope a climb once or twice so we got comfortable and we knew all the moves, there were no surprises. On this last climb I was telling you about, let me put that up here. It was much different. I had never done the climb, um, and so there was some unknowns. Because of that, there was some fear. As you can see here on this climb, it was well protected. Here's a bolt here, and then about 10 feet or so up, there's another bolt. And then as you go up, here's another bolt. I'm just a couple feet above that. So what happened? This is kind of where I got stuck. And what happened to me? Was it a climb that I was physically unable to do? I was easily physically able to make those moves, but I was being affected mentally by my fears. My mental state was affecting my physical performance. Have you ever had something like that happen to you? And really, isn't all of life, first you accomplish things mentally first, and then you can physically do them. So in this case, it was just the opposite. I knew I could do the moves, but I was being physically defeated by my fears. Um, and so, there was kind of a line. I didn't want to go much higher than the last bolt because I had a fear if I was to fall, I might get hurt. And I think the older I get, the more I feel my mortality, and that becomes the case. So really what happened is even before I left the ground, I think I wasn't in the right state. My state of mind was, hey, let's see how this goes. If it gets uncomfortable, I'm just going to rest, or, I'll aid my way up and I'll just come down. You I should have never let my fears control me. The fears in rock climbing are somewhat healthy. You need to be cautious and stay safe. But in life, you should never let your fears control you. So what happened, when I got just about where this picture was taken, I kind of maxed out mentally. And so I had my belayer lower me to the ground. And then the next person went up to that point and continued to finish the climb. And then after he finished the climb, I got on top rope. And at that point, as I showed you before, as I go up the climb, the rope is taken up and there's less risk. So did something magically happen to the rock when I got on top rope? Did something change? Did it get easier? My mental state did. 90% of my fears, maybe 95%, were taken away because that risk factor was lowered. So it wasn't any easier. The climb was the climb. My physical abilities didn't suddenly improve. It was my mental state. So there are things that you know that would help you if you started doing them right now, but you're being limited by your fears? Are there certain things your parents, are certain things your boss, are there certain things the Lord wants you to put aside and put your fears out of the way and to go up uh, and to progress? Are there 1,000 voices telling you not to do it? But there's one voice saying that you can do it. You need to put away all of these other voices. Stop limiting yourself. Don't say, I can't do it. Put those voices aside and look for that improvement, and you can do it. You know, one of the things that, one of the great fears that I had, and to still some extent, it's still a fear. And I think a lot of people have the fear of public speaking. But years ago, probably when I was about your age, and like I say, somewhat now, it was almost disabling, that fear. And I remember a time I had worked at the credit union for about 15 years. And I had worked with the current president of the credit union for all of that time. And she had been training me to take her position. And everyone had gathered for her retirement party at a steakhouse. And we were in a separate room. And all of the employees and spouses and the board members were all gathered. And they had finished eating their dinner. And so the chairman of the board got up and said a few things. And, you know, at a retirement party, it's all about that person and how they enjoyed working with that person. So some of the other employees got up and said a few things. Well, actually, one. And then the chairman of the board got up again and he said, is there anybody else that would like to say a few words? I mean, there wasn't that many people there, maybe 30. I let my fears take over. I was almost petrified. I didn't want to do it. I was awkward. I had not planned. I should have. Someone should have told me what you do at a retirement party and what to expect. I should have planned to say some things. And he repeated himself. Is there anybody that would like to say something? And I know who he was talking to. He was talking to me. And he might even repeated himself a third time, and I never got up. After that day, and for months, I had just a tremendous pain of letting that fear overcome me. It caused me, I didn't understand the level of pain it caused. And the level of pain was so great that I finally had decided enough is enough. I have to do something to conquer this fear. So I remember the first time I went to a Toastmasters meeting. Toastmasters is a organization of professionals that gather, that practice their speech presentations, and they evaluate each other, and they just practice. I remember the first time I went to one of these meetings, and I was a guest, didn't expect anything, and they had this expert just on the spot speech, and someone got up and started this story, and the point of this exercise was other people were supposed to get up and on the spot add to the story, and they called on me, and I was horrified, and I just it was not good. So I left the meeting and I didn't go back for maybe a year, but it always stayed with me, and I knew I needed to do something like that. So I did go back, and I joined a Toastmasters group that was close to home, and I stayed in that group until I moved, really. So I stayed in the group for almost a year, and I learned a lot of things and I learned how to be a little more comfortable. And it was a great opportunity. God wants us to improve ourselves. So, what should we do? Stop listening to the voices that tell you can't do it. Listen to the voices that say you can and you can excel. Turn and face your fears head on. Don't let your fears control you. Control your fears. Thanks.